Hello and welcome to Trendy Maths. In this video we'll be discussing addition and subtraction of fractions. Before we begin, there's just a few things you need to know. Addition and subtraction of fractions is very similar to normal addition and subtraction. There's just a few more things to remember. In our first example, we have 2 over 8 plus 3 over 8. Now, the first thing we should check whether we're adding or subtracting fractions is whether or not the denominator is the same. In this case, it's 8, and we can see in 2 over 8 and 3 over 8 that there is no difference of denominator. So we can see the number at the bottom of the fraction is the same. The next step to solving this fraction is to carry out the actual addition. We've already established that 8 is our common denominator. Now we need to focus more on the numerators, which are the numbers at the top. So the numerators in this question would be 2 and 3. What we do is add them like how we would normally add them, but just add the denominator, which is 8, at the bottom. So in this question, our final answer would be 5 over 8. And you can see we've added 2 and 3 to get 5, and we've kept 8 the same. In the next question, you'll see that the denominators aren't the same this time, and they're actually different, unlike the previous question. You can see 2 and 4 aren't the same number. For the next step, we'll have to convert both of the denominators into the same number. And how we do this is we find the LCM, which is the lowest common denominator of 2 and 4. And in this case, 2 times 2 is 4, so 4 would be the lowest common denominator. In the next step, you can see that 1 over 2 has been turned into 2 over 4. This is because when we found the LCM, we did 2 times 2, which is 4. So then we had to do 1 times 2, which is 2, which equals 2 over 4. Now we can see that both of the denominators are the same number, since they're 4. Now we just use what we did in question 1 in this question, and we just add the numerators and keep the denominator the same. So 4 and 4 make 4, and 2 plus 2 is 4, and you simplify it to get a final answer of 1. For our next question, we can see that both of the denominators are different. Now we have to change both of the denominators in both of the fractions, and we have to find their LCM. So, this time we would not be changing only one fraction, but both of them. Now we just find the LCM of both of the numbers as we did before. This time it's 10. 2 times 5 is 10, 1 times 5 is 5, 5 over 10. 5 times 2 is 10, 3 times 2 is 6, so 6 over 10. For our final step, we're just going to keep the denominator as 10 and do 5 plus 6, which is 11, which would mean 11 over 10, and we just convert it to a mixed number. So 1 times 10 is 10, plus 1 is 11, therefore it's 1 whole 1 over 10. Finally, some tips on adding fractions. Always make sure that the denominators of both fractions are the same before adding them together. Make sure that when you change the denominators you find the LCM of the original denominators. And finally, make sure that you do not add your denominators together, only your numerators. So just like addition, in our next subtraction question, we need to make sure that the denominators are the same, otherwise we won't be able to subtract the fractions correctly. And we can see that in these fractions we have common denominators of 6 and 6. In our next step, we just have to make sure that we don't subtract the denominators, just like we wouldn't add them in addition. So now all we have to do is subtract the numerators and keep the denominators the same. So we do 4 minus 2 to get 2 and keep 6 the same, and we get 2 over 6, which we later simplify to get 1 over 3 as our final answer. So now we have our next question with subtraction, and you can see that the denominators are not the same this time, and they're actually different, since they're 3 and 4. And they aren't the same number, so we would now need to make them the same by finding their lowest common multiple. You can see that the lowest common multiple of these two numbers is 12 because 3 times 4 is 12, and you would do 2 times 4 to make 8, and that would become the numerator, and 4 times 3 to get 12, and 1 times 3 to get 3, which would become the numerator. And now the final step is just to subtract the numerators while keeping the denominators the same. So finally you would do 8 minus 3 to get 5, and then keep 12, the denominator, the same. So you would get 5 over 12. And now for some tips on subtraction. These are just 3 tips that will help you subtract fractions very easily. The first one is, just like in addition, make sure that the denominators are the same to subtract the fractions, and make sure that when you are changing the denominators, it's necessary that you find their LCM. And finally, do not subtract the denominators away from each other. Now we have some practice questions. Pause the video to have a go, unpause when you're ready. Here are the answers. If you have any questions, then make sure to comment down below. Thank you for watching.